Hey guys, this is Omer from MMOs.com doing a quick weekly news recap of all major MMO news, announced beginning February 25th, 2019. This is episode number 188 of the recap, and the first of news this week comes from Grinding Gear Games regarding Path of Exile. The game announced its latest expansion titled Synthesis this week, which is set to launch on March 8th for PC and Xbox One, and in fact, March 8th also marks the game's PlayStation 4 release date for the first time. One thing I love about Path of Exile expansion is that from announcement to release, it's never too long. I mean, this expansion launches next Thursday, which is pretty awesome. And Synthesis introduces 14 new skill gems, 16 new unique items, a new synthesized item system, balance changes, new areas, and of course, a new challenge league. Path of Exile is easily one of the most successful Western-developed free-to-play games out there, perhaps because it has no pay-to-win elements whatsoever. I expect with the launch of Synthesis, the game will be making a new all-time high in players. If you haven't played this one just yet, it's certainly worth checking out. Next up, we have yet another new expansion. This time it's for Neverwinter, and it's titled Undermountain, and it's launching sometime this spring, with the preview servers, better known as public test realms, opening up on March 1st. Undermountain is being billed as the game's biggest expansion yet, and you know it's a serious expansion because it is increasing the game's level cap to 80. It also adds 5 new adventure zones, a new social hub, a new endgame dungeon, a new expedition system, and a huge overhaul of class powers and feats. There's a ton of other smaller changes too. Neverwinter is actually easily Cryptic's most popular game in the West, as it currently averages a bit over 2,100 or so players on Steam alone. And as with most games available on PC and console, the update arrives on the PC first and will launch on Xbox One and PS4 shortly afterwards. My guess is with the PTR starting in March 1st, the full update will hit sometime in late March or early April. Up next, we have another update, but this time it's for a much older MMORPG. Rappelz Epic 9.7, The Siege of the Citadel, launches on March 19th, and despite being over 13 years old, Rappelz is still getting updated regularly. You also get you got to hand to them too, having a really cool name for their updates, as updates are referred to as epics in Rappelz rather than just expansions or updates. Epic 9.6 includes new pets, balance changes, and an entirely new map. The biggest focus with this update though will be on class balance changes that were most requested by the game's community. So the Void Mage, Slayer, and Templar will all see big changes. It's good to see they're actually listening to their community as well, and kind of making the updates based on what their community says. Rappelz is published by Webzen, but it also has a pretty decent private server scene out there if you want to play older versions of the game. I think it's pretty amazing that after 13 years, this one is still going fairly strong. Next up, Lineage 2 Classic is launching its first major Classic server update titled Saviors on February 27th, which is this Wednesday. The update introduces a new raid boss of the game, which will be taken on by up to 300 players at once, as well as third class transfer quests for level 76 players. There's also several new hunting areas for players level 72 and higher. Lineage 2 is yet another game to launch a Classic server and is seeing some pretty good results so far. So far, we've seen Ragnarok, EverQuest, EverQuest 2, Arcade, Rift, and a bunch of other games launch Classic servers, and I think we'll get even more Classic servers in the future. A MapleStory pre-Big Bang server when, Nexon, huh? When? Moving right along, some industry news for ArenaNet. The 2019 industry bloodletting continues with leaks of a massive round of layoffs at ArenaNet now being confirmed as true. According to Kotaku, ArenaNet currently has about 400 employees, but that's pre-layoff numbers. No word on just how many people are getting let go just yet. These layoffs are coming due to stalling revenues at ArenaNet, which basically just runs the Guild Wars games. The bulk of these layoffs are likely to hit those at ArenaNet working on unfinished and unannounced projects, so the impact of the Guild Wars itself should be minimal. It is interesting though that ArenaNet really hasn't done anything besides Guild Wars over the years, especially since they've been working on several unannounced projects. It's just that none of these projects seem to have panned out just yet. Plus, Guild Wars revenue has been in decline over the last few years, with the game reporting its lowest quarterly revenues for the last 5 quarters or so. Perhaps though, Season 5 will reinvigorate things, and ArenaNet did come out and say that basically everything is running fine at Guild Wars 2, and new updates are still planned. So nothing terrible is going on at Guild Wars just yet. They are doing some layoffs though. Up next, and perhaps the weirdest crossovers in MMOs, Tera has announced a crossover event with PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which is set to begin on March 5th and run for 30 days and will allow players to unlock special PUBG-themed cosmetics in-game via login rewards and events. So yes, you can actually get that PUBG helmet, that signature item in Tera. Given that Bluehole develops both games, the collab does make some sense, but I can't imagine there's too much overlap between audiences of Tera and PUBG. But hey, everyone loves free event cosmetics, so Tera players are definitely happy. Next up, the anime action game Kurtzpel has just concluded its first round of closed beta testing. While we don't have any kind of official release date just yet, it's still aiming for a release sometime in Q1 of 2019, which suggests that the game will be launching sometime by the end of March. I did a first look for this one already, and while I love the visuals, I'm not too optimistic on this one, simply because I thought the PvE was surprisingly fun, but it's mostly being billed as a PvP game, and the PvP does feel a bit janky. But definitely check out my first look if you're interested in learning more about Kurtzpel, and it, again, just concluded its closed beta test. Next last of news this week is mobile related. Nexon launched Axe Alliance vs Empire this last week on both Android and iOS. While the game features persistent open world elements, dungeons, and raids like a typical PC MMORPG, it still features many of the mobile MMORPG elements found in games like Lineage 2 Revolution, i.e. autoplay. Still, the boss fights do look kind of cool, as you can see in the background right now, and do seem somewhat difficult. The game boasts large scale 75 vs 75 faction based PvP as well, so it will be just about PvE. I plan on giving this one a try, but I don't expect too much. The little boss video you're seeing in the background looks Kind of interesting, though. But anyway, guys, that's it for MMO news this week. It's been a light week on the MMO news front, but hopefully we'll have more stuff to talk about next week. There will not be a podcast more because I am in Vancouver until this Saturday, but we will resume next week. Anyway, guys, I'll see you next week, and take care.